This particular video is here to talk to you about the 5 relationship stresses that we all need to be aware of. So what brings two people together and creates lasting connection filled with love, passion, and excitement? And then what can extinguish that spark, that fire? How is it that people who once felt such deep love and attraction can in a few years find themselves feeling alone, misunderstood, or even dead inside? Because the passion has been replaced with pain, anger, sadness, resentment. How does that happen? Well, I'm going to share with you how. But the key to avoiding these pitfalls is to understand the common stresses that can negatively impact your relationships and how each of these stages builds if it's not addressed. And the secret to alleviating these stresses is to communicate with your partner in a way that fulfills his or her deepest needs. The number one thing that causes it is a loss of attraction. Attraction diminishing is not a physical issue. It's actually caused by depolarization. Depolarization takes place when the partners no longer have the place of masculine and feminine energies between them. The woman feels too insecure to relax into her feminine, and the man is bent out of shape and loses his masculine backbone, more often than not because he has been emasculated. Attraction can shift in seconds. A woman could go from tight and controlling to free and radiant and playful once her husband makes her feel appreciated, needed, and loved. If the attraction is not dealt with, many couples will experience step 2, which then becomes irritation, frustration, emotional stacking, and stonewalling. And I'll go on and explain what they are. So to have a good relationship, you need to have 5 times as many positive communications as negative ones. To have a great one, you need more. You need to feel the loss of attraction, and you can't successfully influence your partner. So when you go through that, when you feel that loss, and you can't successfully influence your partner to change or hear or understand you through, you're going to go through these next 4 steps, which is resistance, where your partner does something that bothers you, but you choose not to say anything. But if you don't speak the unspoken, it then becomes resentment. Now the resistance goes deeper, and you feel a build-up of tension, and you choose not to address it even more. And then you eventually move on to rejection. And here there is a level of toxicity and abrasiveness. When you get tired of being harsh with each other, you then move on to the level of repression. You feel numb, in a place of learned helplessness. You've lowered your expectations of your relationship and found other vehicles to meet their needs. Your work, your kids, your friends, or maybe someone or something else. So how do you get out of those 4 R's? You need to reserve the negative stacking and create mutual patterns of openness, love, and connection. And what I mean by the stacking is that it's lots and lots, it's constant negativity, it's constant criticizing, and it just becomes one thing after the other. It's the emotions that keep on, the anger, sadness, fear, all those sorts of things just stack on top of each other. And if you don't figure out how to reverse all that and go to the good and focus on the good and stop the emasculation, stop ignoring her, stop talking to her, and it does go both ways, but you get what I'm saying, then you're going to run the risk of a loss of physical passion. With the onset of frustration and irritation comes a loss of physical passion. Why? Because in order to experience passion, You need to be open and honest with one another and feel safe and vulnerable so you connect. And if you're feeling critical to each other and feeling misunderstood or neglected by the other person, you are no longer open, so the passion does not flow. With the loss of physical passion, here your partner might withhold love or intimacy. Because why would I want to be intimate when I'm feeling that certain level of resentment towards that person? And here again, it becomes this learned helplessness because you can't please your partner. That's how you're feeling. But you can reverse all this, and that's the good news. By increasing the physical passion and feel a renewed sense of attraction, which requires you to go back and look at what was all good about them and what was there before and how can you find it again? Because if it was there once, it can be there again. And maybe you have a loss of commitment. Once you feel that the lack of attraction and passion's there, you're no longer committed to understanding your partner, to meeting his or her needs. Commitment breaks down when people don't feel needed, appreciated, or understood. Because why would you want to be in a committed relationship when you don't have any of those? Because you don't feel loved or understood, your energy goes elsewhere. You're in a happy state out with others, but not at home. This is the beginning of the end of your relationship. But again, there's good news, and you can stop that. You can change all this. You need to make sure that there's no threat, that you don't have one foot out the door, that nothing or no one else is a higher priority than your partner. You must make your partner feel that you are fulfilling their needs, and that becomes a must for you. So ultimately, you can get rid of those stresses. And remember that we are repeatedly training our nervous system and your partners about how you feel about each other. If you keep looking at each other in stress, in anger, in resentment, you'll start to associate each other with all that. And that's what we call a negative anchor. And then there's a story of incompatibility. Feeling incompatible comes from not meeting each other's needs, not being put first, and not making it a priority to understand each other in a heartfelt way. Some couples aren't compatible, but no couple is compatible if they're not meeting each other's needs. You don't know your true potential together until you've taken care of the fundamentals and made sure you're meeting each other's needs. Do I sound a bit like a broken record right now? We're going back to these human needs. So you must take control of the meaning you're creating within the relationship as well. Once you have a story about your partner, you'll find evidence to make it true. Maybe it is, they're never going to be well, or they're never going to get a job, or maybe it is he's always going to cheat. So if you make that story and keep retelling it over and over again, it will become your truth, and it will manifest in ways that I'm pretty sure you really don't want. So be careful of the story you're telling, and maybe start writing down all the things that are great about them and go back to creating that vision. And you must create a story about yourself too. An empowering story, because some people do tell themselves, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, they're always going to leave me or abandon me. Whatever it is, you've got to change your story. And your story will dictate how you think and what you do, which is why I talk about your unconscious core beliefs and getting down to things on that level. Because if you felt like you're always going to be abandoned because you're abandoned by your father, then that will play out in the relationship, because often we do marry one of our parents. I'm sorry to say that. So you can rewrite your story of your relationship or life at any time. It's a choice. So what is the story of your relationship? What's the story you need to move your relationship forward? Remember, we have the power to control the stories that define us and our relationship. And remember, if you did what you did in the beginning of the relationship, then there wouldn't be an end. Now, this information comes from the wonderful people of Esther Perel and John Gottman, who have been in